You know, human beings have wandered into one of the strangest predicaments imaginable. We move through our days with a heaviness that almost borders on tragedy, carrying life as if it were an immense burden, a final exam in which every question must be answered perfectly or else we'll face unthinkable consequences. We worry, we analyze, we tighten ourselves into knots, believing that every mistake is a catastrophe, every wrong step an unforgivable failure. But imagine for a moment that the entire structure we take so seriously is not at all what it seems. Imagine that this intricate, dramatic, emotionally charged existence is, in fact, a game. And like all games, once you understand what's really going on, you can play with astonishing grace. You can even enjoy it. Think back to when you were a child. You didn't need anyone to explain the rules of imagination to you. You played effortlessly. One moment you were a cowboy riding across invisible plains, the next you were a mother pouring pretend tea for a circle of dolls. You threw yourself into these roles with complete sincerity. In those moments, you were the character. Yet, and this is the curious thing, you never forgot that you were playing. You never mistook the costume for your actual identity. When your mother called you for dinner, you didn't cling to being the cowboy. You didn't fall into an existential crisis because the game ended. You simply changed roles, moved on, adapted. Children possess a natural wisdom in this way, they can engage fully without becoming trapped. But somewhere along the path into adulthood, we lost this faculty. We became what I call method actors in the theater of existence. We became so absorbed in the roles we were assigned, or chose, that we forgot we were acting at all. We forgot the essential freedom that lies behind the mask. We began to believe, with deadly seriousness, that we really are the banker, the failure, the overachiever, the anxious one, the abandoned one, the strong one. And the moment we identify completely with the role, the game transforms into a prison. Now, let me be clear about something. When I say life is a game, I don't mean it's frivolous or meaningless. Games can be immensely serious. A great musician plays with full intensity. A great athlete moves with total commitment. The point is not to stop caring, the point is to play with a light touch. To stop clutching every moment as if your existence depends on it. And this brings us to the first, and perhaps most revolutionary, rule of the cosmic game. White medium star rule number 1, you are not who you think you are. The character you call me, with its personal history, its fears, its hopes, its memories, its ambitions, that is your role. Your mask. Your temporary identity in this particular round of the game. But the real you, the deep you, is not the character at all. The real you is the silent witness behind the character. The awareness in which thoughts appear and disappear. The spaciousness in which sensations rise and fall. The canvas upon which the entire painting of your life is drawn. The real you is the player, not the character. And once you see this, the game changes entirely. Suddenly you recognize that you've been like an actor so immersed in his performance that he forgot he could take off the costume and step off stage at any moment. You realize you're not trapped in the character, not ever. You can play it skillfully, enjoy it fully, explore it deeply, but you don't have to be imprisoned by it. Now, here is something most people never discover. Your character is not fixed. It is not something you must defend with every breath. It is not something you must maintain for the sake of consistency. You can, if you wish, reinvent yourself at any moment. Authenticity does not mean being the same person day after day, authenticity means allowing yourself to respond freshly to each moment. Just imagine the freedom. Imagine letting go of the exhausting need to protect an image, a narrative, a story about who you think you are supposed to be. Imagine releasing the fear that you must remain consistent with your past. Imagine the relief of living like a child again, fluid, adaptable, open, playful. But rule number 1 is only the beginning. Once you see that you are not your character, the second rule becomes obvious. White medium star rule number 2, there is no final victory condition. Life is not a tournament in which you accumulate points to earn some final trophy. There is no hidden scoreboard. There is no cosmic judge tallying your performance. The whole point is the playing itself, the experience, the participation, the unfolding. Life is much more like dancing or music than like a race. You don't dance to arrive somewhere. You don't listen to a symphony just to hear its final note. The meaning lies in the movement, the rhythm, the flowing. And yet most people live as though life were a ladder, always climbing, always reaching for some future moment when they can finally rest, finally feel complete, finally declare themselves winners. We rush through childhood to reach adulthood. We rush through school to reach work. We rush through work to reach retirement. And then, quite suddenly, we find ourselves wondering where all the time went. We missed the only thing that ever existed. This moment. The game is always happening now. Not next week. Not 10 years ago. Now. But we spend almost all our time trying to get somewhere else, missing the music that is playing right in front of us. Now, once you begin to understand that life is a game, a magnificent drama, a cosmic dance, something extraordinary begins to happen. The heaviness that once followed you like a shadow starts to dissolve. You begin to notice that so much of your suffering, perhaps most of it, doesn't come from the events of life themselves but from the stories you attach to them. You see, pain and suffering are not the same thing. Pain is part of the human experience. It's built into the game. Suffering is optional. Suffering is the commentary. A child falls, scrapes their knee, and they cry for a few seconds. Within moments they're running around again, the whole event already forgotten. But an adult falls, and suddenly there's an entire narrative. This always happens to me. What if it means something is wrong? I'm getting old. I'm clumsy. Life is so unfair. Do you see the difference? Pain is what happens. Suffering is the story. The character suffers. The player never does. Imagine your mind as a radio with 1,000 channels, and suffering is simply the channel you've gotten used to tuning into. But at any moment, you can change the station. This isn't denial. This isn't pretending pain doesn't exist. It's simply refusing to amplify it through resistance. When it rains, the sky doesn't resist the rain. When the sun comes out, the sky doesn't cling to the sunlight. The sky allows everything to pass through it without grasping or rejecting. And you, the true you, not the character, but the player, are precisely like that sky. Thoughts appear like clouds. Feelings pass like weather systems. Experiences rise and fall like winds. But none of them define the sky. None of them leave a permanent mark. White medium star rule number 3, stop taking everything so personally. This is a delightful rule once you really understand it. Most of what disturbs you in life has nothing to do with you at all. People criticize you not because they see some profound truth about your shortcomings, but because they are playing out their own character script. The universe may appear to be speaking through them, but what you're really hearing is the echo of their conditioning, their fears, their insecurities. When someone insults you or misunderstands you, instead of falling into defensiveness, you might smile inwardly and think, "Ah, here is the universe playing the role of the critic. How fascinating. What can I learn from this performance?" It becomes theater. A play. And you stop taking the lines so seriously. Suddenly your life feels less like a courtroom and more like a classroom, or even a comedy club. Because the moment you stop personalizing everything, much of the world's apparent hostility simply dissolves. It wasn't about you to begin with. It was never about you. This is what it means to play with a light touch. White medium star rule number 4, you don't need an opinion about everything. This one is particularly difficult for modern people. We have been conditioned to constantly judge, evaluate, categorize, condemn, praise, compare. Our minds have become compulsive critics, always deciding whether we like or dislike what is happening. But imagine how exhausting that is. It's like being a movie critic who can never just enjoy the film because he's too busy analyzing every scene. Sometimes you can simply say, "How interesting," and leave it at that. Not everything requires your approval. Not everything requires your condemnation. Things can just be. Once you stop stuffing every experience into a mental box labeled good or bad, you begin to experience a profound sense of freedom. Reality becomes lighter, more fluid, less suffocating. You can allow life to unfold without forcing it into your preferences. This is what I call the discovery of ease. White medium star rule number 5, life is jazz, not classical music. Most people approach life as though it were classical music, strict tempo, rigid notes, precise expectations. Any deviation feels like error, any surprise feels like catastrophe. But life is not classical. Life is jazz. The rhythm is there, the structure is present, but within that structure is boundless room for improvisation. And the more skillfully you improvise, the more alive you feel. The universe is a jam session. You are one of the musicians. And the music is always changing, inviting you, challenging you, dancing with you. The problem is that most people are trying to force the universe to play their tune. They demand that others follow their timing, their expectations, their preferences. But the universe is not a trained orchestra. It will not obey your baton. Instead of trying to control the music, learn to flow with it. When life shifts key, shift with it. When life changes tempo, adjust your rhythm. When life introduces a new melody, respond with curiosity rather than resistance. This is mastery, not control, but adaptability. And once you begin playing life like jazz, something magical happens. You stop feeling like the universe is against you. You begin to sense that it is with you, dancing, inviting, guiding. White medium star rule number 6, there are no real mistakes, only experiments. A child learning to walk doesn't call it failure when they fall. They don't internalize guilt or shame. They simply try again. They're experimenting. They're exploring. They're playing. But adults turn every stumble into a personal tragedy. A failed relationship becomes evidence that they're unlovable. A lost job becomes proof that they're worthless. A mistake becomes a permanent judgment on their character. But you see, the game wasn't designed this way. What you call failures are simply experiences. What you call setbacks are simply data points. What you call mistakes are simply movements in the dance. The universe isn't keeping score. Only your mind is. And once you stop scoring yourself, life becomes astonishingly lighter. Now, one of the great secrets of this game, one that very few players discover until much later, is that life is infinitely more cooperative than it appears. We tend to imagine ourselves as solitary beings, struggling to navigate a chaotic world full of unpredictable forces. But what if the chaos is not chaos at all? What if everything you encounter is precisely the experience you need for the role you are playing? Imagine, for a moment, that you are an actor performing in a play. If the script only gave you pleasant scenes, flowers, sunshine, supportive characters, constant success, you would be bored within minutes. A story without conflict, without challenges, without surprises is not a story worth telling. In the same way, your life is not designed to be smooth from beginning to end. It is designed to be interesting. It is designed to stretch you, to provoke you, to awaken you. You see, every challenge in your life is like a plot twist written specifically to develop your character. Not the character you think you are, but the deeper one, the awareness learning through the role. Think of the most significant growth in your life. Did it come from comfort? From ease? From everything going your way? Or did it come from difficulty, loss, heartbreak, uncertainty? Life teaches through contrast. You learn courage through fear. You learn compassion through suffering. You learn wisdom through confusion. You learn strength through adversity. And so the universe brings you precisely what you need, not as punishment, but as curriculum. White medium star rule number 7, the game is rigged in your favor. It may not feel that way. It may feel like things fall apart at the worst time, like people fail you, like plans collapse, like the world is conspiring against you. But step back, zoom out, and something remarkable becomes apparent. Every experience you've ever had led you somewhere. Every loss opened a new door. Every failure redirected you. Every ending created space for a beginning. What looks like chaos up close is harmony from a distance. A blade of grass pushed through concrete doesn't realize it's growing toward the sun. A river flowing through jagged rocks doesn't realize the rocks are shaping it. And you, moving through your life with all its twists, don't always realize how each twist is carving you into someone capable of deeper awareness. The game is not against you. The game is for you. Because you are the one who wrote it. White medium star rule number 8, you are not separate from other players. Perhaps the most astonishing discovery of all is that the people around you are not separate entities playing separate games. They are reflections, extensions, different masks worn by the same consciousness. The awareness looking out from behind their eyes is the same awareness looking out from behind yours. This is why compassion arises naturally once you understand the game. Not the sort of sad, dutiful compassion that says, I must help others because it is morally correct. No. The compassion that arises is spontaneous, effortless, almost humorous. Because you realize. You were the other players all along. The rude stranger, the impatient driver, the anxious coworker, they are all roles played by the same consciousness exploring itself from every angle. If you could see this clearly, your entire relationship to the world would soften. You would stop trying to punish others for their mistakes because you would know that they are simply characters acting out their script. And you would stop punishing yourself for yours. We are all windows of the same house, each giving a different view, yet all opening from the same structure. White medium star rule number 9, you can change roles at any time. Most people are trapped, not by circumstances, but by identity. They cling to a personality as though it were some ancient stone tablet carved by the gods. This is who I am, they say. This is just how I am. But personality is simply a habit. A collection of patterns. A set of behaviors. A costume. You've mistaken for your skin. Children understand this effortlessly. One moment they are pirates, the next moment they are explorers, then chefs, then superheroes. They change roles without hesitation because they recognize the game. You can do this too. Not in a chaotic, inconsistent way, but in a fluid, responsive way. You are under no obligation to remain the same person you were 5 minutes ago. You can reinvent your role endlessly, like a shape-shifting actor exploring new possibilities. Identity was never meant to be a cage. It was meant to be a costume. And the moment you realize this, you experience a kind of freedom that most people never taste, the freedom to respond to life freshly, without dragging your entire history into every moment. White medium star rule number 10, mastery is effortless effort. There is a beautiful principle in ancient Taoist philosophy known as Wu Wei. It is often mistranslated as inaction, but it truly means action without strain. Effort that feels like non-effort. The way water flows around rocks effortlessly, wearing them down without aggression. This principle is central to mastering the cosmic game. You take action. But you do not force. You move. But you do not push. You guide. But you do not control. Most people approach life like someone trying to untangle a knot by pulling it tighter. They think intensity equals effectiveness. But mastery is more like gently teasing the knot open, patiently, calmly, without panic. The river doesn't rush in panic to the ocean. It simply flows. When you align with the deeper flow of life, when your actions arise from awareness rather than fear, everything becomes smoother. You accomplish more with less energy. You conserve your internal resources. You begin to feel the difference between choices that drain you and choices that support you. You stop swimming upstream. White medium star rule number 11, the universe loves surprise. If you truly want to enjoy the game, you must learn to appreciate surprise. Life is full of twists, reversals, unexpected openings, sudden closures. Most people fear this unpredictability. They crave stability, control, certainty. But imagine a movie where you know every scene in advance. Imagine a book with no plot twists. Imagine a game where the outcome is predetermined. It would bore you senseless. Surprise is one of the universe's greatest gifts. It keeps you awake. It keeps you flexible. It keeps you curious. When life doesn't go according to plan, instead of resisting, try asking. What is the universe revealing here? What is this redirecting me toward? What new possibility is opening that I cannot yet see? Learn to enjoy the unexpected. Learn to delight in the improvisation. Learn to trust the rhythm even when you can't predict the melody. This is the essence of conscious play. Now we come to one of the most extraordinary realizations a human being can have, the recognition that mistakes do not exist in the way you imagine them. In fact, what you call mistakes are simply the universe experimenting with itself through you. They are attempts, explorations, improvisations, each one offering information, not condemnation. Watch a child learning to walk. They fall dozens of times, sometimes hundreds. But never once do they sit on the floor, hold their head in their hands, and mutter, "I'm such a failure." The child treats the entire process as play. Falling is part of the dance. There is no shame in it. There is simply learning, adjusting, trying again. You were like this once. Fearless. Curious. Playful. But over time, society taught you to fear failure, taught you to take the game far too seriously. Taught you to believe your worth is tied to your performance. This is the great tragedy of adulthood, we forget the playful intelligence we were born with. Life becomes a judgment instead of an exploration. A test instead of a dance. But here's the secret. The universe does not judge you. Only you judge you. And when you drop that self-judgment, when you return to a childlike openness, the game becomes light again. Your movements become fluid. You begin to take risks, to try new roles, to reinvent yourself, not out of desperation, but out of genuine curiosity. Because that is what this cosmic game has always been about, curiosity. White medium star rule number 12, flow with life, don't wrestle it. When you fight life, when you demand that things be different, that people behave differently, that events unfold on your schedule, you create suffering. Not pain, but suffering. Pain is natural. Suffering is resistance. Life is like water. It flows, bends, shifts, transforms, finds new ways through old obstacles. When you resist the flow, you feel friction. When you align with it, you feel grace. A wise person does not try to force outcomes. They cooperate with what is happening. This doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you learn the difference between forcing and flowing, between straining and responding, between anxious action and appropriate action. In every moment, ask yourself. Am I pushing against the stream? Or am I allowing life to guide my next movement? You'll be astonished at how much easier everything becomes once you stop tightening your grip on reality. White medium star rule number 13, you influence the game more than you think. Most people believe reality is fixed, like a rigid board game with preset rules. But the cosmic game is not rigid. It responds to your attitude, your choices, your expectations, your inner state. When you approach the world with bitterness, the world offers you evidence to justify your bitterness. When you approach the world with curiosity, the world offers you wonders to explore. When you approach people with suspicion, they show you their guarded selves. When you approach them with openness, they reveal something softer. Consciousness is not a spectator of reality. Consciousness participates in the shaping of reality. Your inner state is part of the creative mechanism by which the game evolves. And this is not mystical fluff. It is a psychological truth, a philosophical truth, and increasingly, a scientific one. The observer influences the observed. You are not simply walking through the game. You are co-creating it. White medium star rule number 14, everyone can win. In most games, the victory of one player requires the defeat of another. But not here. Not in this game. In the game of consciousness, everyone gets to win. Not by beating others, but by becoming more themselves. Your growth does not diminish anyone else. Their awakening does not diminish yours. Your success does not threaten others, unless they are playing the wrong game. This is why truly conscious people do not compete in the ordinary sense. They understand that the more authentically each person plays their role, the more harmonious the entire game becomes. You win by waking up. By seeing through the illusion. By remembering who you really are. And when you win in this sense, everyone around you benefits, because your presence becomes lighter, clearer, calmer, more joyful. You become a mirror through which others can glimpse their own depth. White medium star rule number 15, death is not the end, just a costume change. Now, here's the rule that frightens people the most until they finally understand it: there is no final death in this game. There is only transformation. A shift in perspective. A change of roles. The real you, the player behind the character, does not begin with birth nor end with death. That which is aware of your experience existed before your story began and will exist after it ends. Birth is the player entering a new scene. Death is the player exiting the stage. But the theater remains. The actor remains. The play continues. This knowledge, once realized not intellectually but experientially, dissolves the fear that shadows most lives. You stop clinging so tightly. You stop resisting change. You stop imagining that everything is at stake. You begin to live lightly, playfully, wisely. White medium star. So, what is the point of the game? People often ask, if this is all a game, what is the purpose? And here is the simplest answer: to explore every possible facet of consciousness. To experience joy and sorrow, love and loss, confusion and clarity, identity and transcendence, separation and unity, ignorance and awakening. You, as consciousness, wanted to play every role, to see the world from every angle, to forget yourself so deeply that you could rediscover yourself again and again, forever. That is the great cosmic hide-and-seek. The divine game of remembering and forgetting. The eternal dance of the one becoming the many and the many returning to the one. White medium star. The final insight. If you take nothing else from this whole exploration, take this. Life is not a problem to be solved. Life is a game to be played. Play with awareness. Play with curiosity. Play with a light touch. Laugh at the absurdity. Marvel at the mystery. Love the characters. Enjoy the surprises. Learn from the challenges. Flow with the changes. Because in the end, and this is the cosmic punchline, you were never just a character in the game. You were the game itself. And what a magnificent game it is.